Let's head from California across the country to Boston. Thank you, Mr. Garces, for joining us virtually. You're Boston's Chief Information Officer, and earlier this year, you encouraged city employees to use AI to, do some of their work, from writing emails to memos to generating images or video. So tell us a little bit about why you wanted to do this.
Thank you again for having me remotely. I apologize I cannot be there in person. But again, the city of Boston has been using kind of what we think about this previous generation of machine learning and artificial intelligence to build models to extract information about assets in the right of way and to identify locations that are at higher risk of issues in order to prioritize inspection for our inspectional services department. But in the past year, almost a year ago, OpenAI released the first version of ChatGPT to the public. And I think that it is particularly these new types of technologies that we know as generative AI that leverage these massive amounts of data about language, about images, to be able to generate new content that really started to capture our attention, both because of the opportunities and the risks, and because of how pervasive these models started to seem. So, and in some sense, like what we started to see is that when you have technology that is able to allow you to process language, and not language without very little barriers to entry. You don't have to be an expert coder to interact with these models. All you have to do is be able to talk to it in the way that you talk to anyone else. And you're able to do things that, and as the models evolve, increasingly more sophisticated things with very little training and very little context up front. And in an organization like the city of Boston, where so much of our work, we spend a lot of energy dealing with each other, writing things and reading things, these models have a great opportunity of reducing burden and time that we spend doing things in the good old bureaucracy, and instead shift our attention to be able to focus more on our constituents and on our workforce. So a few examples. In our department, we still have a vacancy rate of over 20%. So staffing and modernizing the way that we staff the department is really important to us. We've been using some of these tools to be able to write job descriptions and to be able to build skills and competency matrices for new lines of work that the city has not had in the past, including product managers and other things. And again, we think that these tools, when used under the supervision of people with their expertise, with their agency, with their responsibility and their to the public and to the city, that they can be incredibly powerful. So that's why in May we released these guidelines on the use of generative AI, and we tried to focus on three guidelines. The first one, again, making sure that people understood that it is their responsibility to verify the output of what was being generated, that they were responsible for fact checking, that some of these models can hallucinate, can make up information that looks like it's true, but it's not true. The output can be biased and racism, genderism, and all these things are so subtle, and they can change based on context and based on language itself, what language you're getting input. So again, making sure that people were aware that they had a responsibility there. The second guideline was making sure that people were disclosing the use of these tools. And the third guideline, not using any sensitive or confidential information. So we wanted to enable all of our workforce to be able to experiment and learn how the tools could be used, both to better understand the risk, the opportunities, but most of the tools that people were going to be accessing were free and not enterprise-grade applications where the information was going to be shared back with the provider. So,
do you have a sense? Do you have a sense at this point, like what share of your employees have taken you up on the challenge?
So, I need to review my data, but at the time, early on, we started noticing probably around 100 to 200 people participating in some of the earlier trainings, and most of them had said that they had used the tool at some point. We're starting to see now, as the tools get better and maybe time goes by and more people get interested, there's kind of a second wave, if you will. I would estimate that there's somewhere around like 50 to 100 people that use the tool consistently. I think for a lot of people, they use it, they either are impressed or feel skeptical, and then they forget about it. I think that there's a small percentage of people that are using it consistently. Actually, the number of people that submitted concerns were really few. There's less than 10 people that submitted concerns, and I was expecting more people to be sharing. We created a forum for people to submit concerns. Mostly, they just wanted more training material and more training opportunities.
And so people are using this to write job descriptions. And is there anything that's more resident focused, Boston resident focused, or is that like more in the future?
Oh, absolutely. So again, I focus on that initial piece just because I think that anything that makes our government and our bureaucracies more efficient, they're less appealing and interesting, but I think that it's so impactful. Like, think about the impact of the spreadsheet on government. Like, it revolutionized the way that we can run, how we budget, how we create programs. But we've been also starting to use a lot of these tools for data analysis around our constituent services using open data, so things that were already in the public domain. I've been using it to look at regulation and try to look at our procurement regulations that the state sets for us, and be able to understand and create process maps around what are the steps that we need to take in order to do different types of procurement. And obviously, I then go and verify it with our lawyers. I have a lot of people that make sure that we don't make mistakes. I think government usually have a lot of checks and balances. But I'll give you an example with some of the advanced data analysis. We're able to start looking at whether there's statistically difference in depending on neighborhood, on the response rate to potholes, or statistically differences in the incidence of rodent infestation. And again, a lot of times in government, we have data that has been created by humans that's a little bit messy, and we type things a little bit differently. This is also where large language models that are intrinsically built with language that embeddings that are able to take words in different contexts and try to understand their meaning are incredibly powerful to analyze government data. And so we've been doing a lot of these things, but again, always with a human in the middle and intermediating the results at this point. We've been, some of our team is starting to look at the research of how we would be able to enable applications that are, that don't have this type of control. But our concern is, until we have better understanding of the quality management and making sure that we're able to detect bias consistently, that we're able to assert accuracy consistently, that those type of applications are a little bit 2 steps ahead. Whenever we figure out the answer to that, we'll venture there.
Just last thing, you've been collaborating with some outside partners. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that, who they are and why you chose them?
Absolutely. So when we started building the guidelines, we engage in really good dialogue with a lot of our employees. There's people that, again, both people that were very excited about this and people that are fairly skeptical. With academics, and in Boston, we're very lucky to have almost a major university in every neighborhood. So there's a lot of academics that have a lot of expertise to help us think through these things. And we've been working with a lot of people in Northeastern University as well, which is one of our local universities. There's been a keen sense, again, of the opportunity of engaging with civil society in the absence of government, to use these types of tools to really enable community members to get access to an understanding of how their government works. So Dan O'Brien, who's a researcher at Northeastern University, and some others, in partnership with a community-based organization called Tech Goes Home, are doing training with high school students on these tools. And helping them understand how their government works so they can be discerning and challenge the way that we do business.
Well, that's good to